We're visiting Budapest, Hungary. The impressions that we took home from this romantic place after visiting it for a few days were music and food, friendly people, beautiful outdoor places with plazas and promenades and pedestrian zones, and a lot of classic old buildings. The shadows of the past are always visible in Budapest today. You'll also find it a great city for shopping. You can pick up a lot of special handmade items here that you just don't find anyplace else. The chain bridge, constructed in the 1840s, and the Houses of Parliament, built in a neo-Gothic style, much like the British Houses of Parliament. We love the atmosphere at this restaurant on Boros Marty Square, and here in the middle of the square, a statue of a poet. There's a lot of statues of different heroes around town, and many of the fine restaurants do have live music. And we start our walk at the Fisherman's Bastion, which gives you a nice vantage point to look out over the city. This is in the old town. It's right next to the Hilton Hotel. And from here we have a great view of the Hungarian Parliament. It was constructed about 100 years ago. The buildings of the Castle District are much older than that. It dates back to about the 13th century. Some of the earliest settlements of Budapest are right here. It was a fortified hilltop. Walls built around the castle to protect it from the Mongolian invaders and others. The buildings we see today in the Castle District were constructed around the 18th century during the time of Austrian occupation and influence. Matthias Church is one of the most recognizable symbols of Buda, constructed in the Gothic style back in the 13th century. When the Turks occupied town in the 16th century, it became the main mosque. So the buildings lining these little narrow lanes date back to about 200 years ago, built in the Baroque style. However, they were largely destroyed during World War II, and since then it's been rebuilt so nicely that you would never suspect that these are actually new buildings. Constructed in the old style on the original foundations. A castle in the background, towering over this town square. So it's a nice place to come and wander. Also nice is the heart of Pest. Here we are with our Hawaii group walking along on Fosse Utica, the main pedestrian mall that leads into the main town square over on the modern Pest side. Lined with cafes, there's fountains, there's statues, there's a lot of hotels clustered nearby. Passing again the statue of that poet, we're in Boros Marty Square. The poet Boros Marty lived in the early 1800s, and he was a patriotic hero, one of whose memorable lines is, "Be always faithful to your country." There's a lot of these folklore shows happening throughout town with dancers in traditional costumes, and a little later in our program we'll show you some more of that evening of lovely folk music and dance that we enjoyed. Fosse Utica is the main shopping street of town. It has a lot of these smart boutiques. It's a very friendly spot for the pedestrian. There's no cars allowed on Fosse Utica, so it's quite safe, it's quiet. It's a nice place to hang out. Fatal Restaurant. No, the food here is not fatal. It's delicious and not very expensive. Once you get away from the five-star hotel dining rooms, you can get some really good values in meals, and we'll show you some more of the eateries later in the program here in Budapest. You can enjoy some Hungarian food, goulash and dumplings. The buildings here are not the typical modern slabs of concrete. These are nicely decorated from 100, 200 years ago, built in a neoclassical style. The mixture of architecture in Budapest is one of the intriguing things, and many of the buildings have been beautifully renovated, like this one. It's the Central Market Hall. It was built in the 1890s and recently renovated. It's been closed down but has now reopened, and it is sparklingly clean. It's the main place to buy your vegetables in Budapest. Originally constructed as a wholesale market, it almost looks like a cathedral with the main nave and the two side aisles. It's 500 feet long and it covers 10,000 square yards of land area. It's a huge marketplace. There are several other markets like it in town, but this is the big one. And all the locals come here to buy their fresh fruits and vegetables, buy meats and fish, paprika, garlic, a couple of the ingredients of Hungarian cuisine. Get your nuts and grains and beans, everything right out of the bins. It's a throwback to the old-fashioned way of life before there was Safeways, before there was air-conditioned supermarkets and all the aisles look alike. This is the real thing, the Central Market Hall. It's right at the end of Fosse Utica. It's open from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening. You can buy Hungarian wines and cheeses here as well. And escalators can lead you up to a mezzanine level where they have traditional folk items for sale, and there's a couple of fast food type of restaurants upstairs. You can grab a quick snack while you're at it. Some of the fresh fruits grown locally include strawberries, raspberries, and peaches. Paprika. It's the most essential single ingredient of the spices of Hungary, red chili pepper. People just shop with their regular home shopping bags and dump the produce in, just like we might have done in America 50 years ago, and they're still doing it today. Built in the grandiose style of turn-of-the-century steel and glass, it's really a wonder to behold. Still standing, unlike a lot of the other similar markets in other European cities which have been knocked down and replaced by modern supermarkets. Of course, in Budapest they do have supermarkets that are popular with the local residents as well too. This steel bridge right next door is the Liberty Bridge, built at the same time in the late 1890s. Back on Fosse Utica, another glimpse of some of the nice shops and the ornamental building facades. This pedestrian mall continues for just over a mile from the marketplace to the main square. Carpaccio Restaurant was a big hit with our Hawaii group. Typical of the quality restaurants of town, you have a beautiful interior, and in the evening it's very busy and they have live music with a gypsy fiddle group. Typical of the quality dining establishments in Budapest, you're going to hear that music all over town. It's really one of the great joys of traveling to this capital of Hungary. You won't be hungry when you're in Hungary with that kind of restaurant. Another sort of menu is that for the metro. You can buy tickets singly, or for the week you can buy a pass or a ticket for just 3 stops if you wish. Hungary has got the oldest subway in Europe, really, and it still functions quite nicely today. Several main lines will whisk you quickly around town, and you can connect by bus if you wish up on the surface to get further. Subway is very cheap here, under $1 for a ride. It's really a good value, and you never have to worry about traffic jams. And usually as a tourist, you're not traveling at rush hour anyway. We're not getting out on the road at 7:30 in the morning, so the subway trains are not crowded, as you can see here. Great way to get around town. It was first built in 1896, and it still has some of the original stations. It's very easy to use. There's escalators that will get you up and down from street level to the train platform itself. So it's a real good value.